think there's a couple things I could do today. One of those would be some concept art, which does need to be done. I kind of need to figure out what I'm doing with the starting area, like properly. My stream drop. It's dropping frames. Alright, sorry about that. The stream was a little bit rocky there. I'm having some internet problems anyway. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, that ain't normal. Look at this. This is amazing. Relaunched Unity. I think that was probably because Dropbox was trying to sync something while it was opening. Yeah, there we go. So I was doing this test of a starting area, right? Which is not terrible, but I mostly just don't like the grass on top here. That needs to be redone. I don't know, there's a couple things I'm thinking about. One was I thought maybe I should make a layer for parallax stuff and then set up the camera system to handle that. It seems really messy and I don't like it, but it would work. Because the issue, like right now, is like if I look here at the, I've got the scene camera, and then I have a secondary camera that's that looks at a off-screen buffer, right? That the primary scene camera renders to. So I'm trying to think of a way in which I can add in subpixel thing that I would want. And the obvious thing would seem to be like rendering to a second off-screen buffer, and then you put like that off-screen buffer in front of the other one, right? So that then you got like two layers. I'm not sure how doable that is. Or do I even know, like, if I render this alpha clear, okay, so it doesn't look like it can render the alpha clear, but that might just be how the actual buffer's set up. But let's see, if I pull the scene tab, I can that, as far as I know, can be moved quite easily, right? And gets the sub-pixel accuracy. So it should mean that I could make another layer, but it could just be my shader here. Like if I change this to the sprite shader, okay, then I don't have that issue. So I would say that it should be doable if you render to a transparent. So that really just means, as far as I can tell, that I need to adjust my pixel art shader there. Which is pretty bad, that shader already. It like seriously needs work. Like most of the time it works, but occasionally it has some problems. I don't even know where that is in here. Now, let me go into my audio settings, adjust some things. So I just realized I have this audio set probably to the point that it's clipping. So it's probably better now. Alright, so I need to see. One of these is a shader. And one of these is what? What is this? Is that a compiled shader? I guess it is. So, RGBA maybe? So I have all this. So the float 4s should be fine. There may be some spot where I'm like killing that aspect of it. Seemed like just a sprite shader. Doesn't seem to be pulling in the alpha, which is weird. Let me just try doing this. Return. Oh gosh, it's been so long since I even touched this stuff. Return text 2D main text. Check to make sure that's doing what it clearly should be doing. Okay, so it is changed. Like if I went return 1. Okay, then that did compile it. So the issue is that it's not actually got alpha. Oh, okay. Well, that's just me being dumb. Because the issue there is that I didn't actually set it up to have alpha. I did earlier, but oh well, it should have alpha then. Weird. Hello, Canookles. I hope you're doing well. I'm wondering why I'm not getting this. Okay, so there is an alpha channel. So why, when I just return this, does the alpha channel not come out? Look at that camera buffer. Is that the problem? It's weird because, like, you'd think it would show up with the 32-bit one. When I go here, though, well, no, it's just black. It's not that it's got alpha. But I know it's not impossible because my job situation, yeah. That, I mean, I'm not on a vacation. It's a layoff, so I just have a layoff when there's not much work there. And I thought I'd be off for a couple more weeks, but they decided to call me back today. Sorry about the Sonic comics. Yeah. I should talk to more people on the internet. Probably. I'm just a weirdo. It looks like there is, like, it is transparent there. Oh, that might not actually be up to date. Request error. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like that. It's actually an up-to-date version of that. Anyway, I'm trying to do which I was trying to do on stream last time, which is have parallaxing layers, and the easiest way I can think of to do it is to just basically have multiple render textures that get stacked. I mean, I could do it probably some other way, because I know there's, like, you can program the render queue and that would probably work, but either way, I kind of have two spaces in which I can move the camera, and in one space, which is like the real world space, if I move the camera, then stuff's kind of, well, it's jittery, which you can see here, like, because I don't have my actual, like, shader involved, but, like, subpixely, it's not accurate, right, when the camera moves. Whereas in the other space, it does a subpixel blending on the image so that it comes out smoothly, right? So it's smooth, but you still keep the sharp pixel edges if possible, basically. Like the most that it gets blurred is across 1 pixel, which at this size looks very smooth. So like what I was fooling around with yesterday was, I guess I'll just move the character down there. I don't know what this request error is. It's probably in this panel or something. I have no idea. Let's see, where is the player? Where players are there? So I'm gonna grab the player and move them if I can. Turn off this. So I've got a camera that moves like in world space, and I've also got a camera that moves in this kind of subpixel space. And so I was trying to come up with a way to do, like, you know, a sky background or something that's kind of parallaxing. Just because that's obviously something I might want to be able to do in the game. I need a better image, really, but I'm not sure. Let me grab an image out of here that I can use, or edit the one that I have in some way. Yeah, I should talk with more people. Just so antisocial. This is the most social I can stand to be. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw some noise on that sky background just so that I have something that makes it apparent what it is. But yeah, like ideally, you know, you would want to have that parallax in some way. And so I kind of did a pass at doing that, which this is the wrong parallaxing, but Like that parallaxes, but then the problem is that it doesn't do it smoothly. It has the, well, it's no good because the texture is getting bilinear filtering done to it, but let's go over here and turn off the bilinear filtering. So now you can see like it's not subpixely correct there, right? Just talk more to you, just you. Let's keep it let's keep it simple. Anyway, so I really don't know a way to make that work. Now there's two ways I could do it. One, I could rewrite my pixel art shader to just be on every single individual thing. Or two, I can set it up to where there's a multi-pass thing in the scene where this gets rendered out as like a separate layer that then gets composited in behind this thing here, which these are not normally rendered, but that's kind of how it would work, right? So that I have a secondary layer behind the main layer. But that requires that I get it to actually render transparently to this, so that in the case of that, like this should all be transparent, right? Like I should see not see a big square here that's filled background, but it should just be transparent, and then I'd have a background layer behind that. Anyway, I don't know. Don't know if that's doable, but initially it doesn't seem to be working, which is weird to me. Let's see. I'm going to try to to use the alpha. So maybe it's that. Doesn't seem to be. Doesn't seem to be. Where's that camera? The actual camera. Because, like, theoretically, this background color here, right? I should be able to alter that. That's alpha. Okay, I guess I need a blend statement. What's that? Hey, that was it. Now what if I don't have that tagged? Okay, it still works. Yay! Yay! Now will it still work like this, or did I lose it somewhere? It looks like I lost it somewhere. No! Oh wait, no. No, it's fine. Yay! Okay, so that's good. So that means I can layer up stuff. And just have, let's see. A background. Seems, like I said, this seems really bad. I feel like there's some way I should be able to set up the stuff to where it will render a layer in this camera, so I don't have to have like multiple cameras, because otherwise I have to have multiple cameras. Oh, I gotta learn about all this stuff. Excuse me. Forward base. It's not quite what I was thinking. I don't need all of this level of nonsense. I just need basically to set passes. There's a ridiculous amount of stuff in here. Okay, I should be able to probably put a script on the camera, and there's probably some callbacks. It's like on render or something like that. Callbacks. I don't know, but there probably is. Render the camera manually. Okay. It's like sets current render texture to active render texture, then sets active render texture to target texture, then it renders the camera, then it makes a new texture. It's the size of the camera. It reads. What? I don't know what this is doing. This is a very strange random piece of code to put in here as an example. Oh, am I offline? Oh no. For some reason my laptop shows that the stream's offline randomly. Even though OBS says I'm still live. I just don't see any better way to do this. I mean, like I could do this nonsense, but it's really not. Okay, well I'm glad if it's going fine. It just occasionally it'll just kind of oscillate on my laptop between saying that the stream's offline and that it's on, so. Oh, these are just polish type things I don't have to do, I guess, right now, but I'd like to do. I have no idea, like. Set target buffers. So you can do multiple buffers, but add command buffer. Rendering.camera event. The buffer to execute. Excuse me. Anything else set weird? I've never listened to this music before, so it's got a lot of clippiness to it, but of stuff. It's not quite. What I was thinking. This is what kills productivity, is because, like, unless I just decide, well, I guess I'm just gonna do the dumbest possible thing I can think of. Can I even add, can I just add another camera here? No. So I'd have to just, like, add it as another object. Copy this component over here. Let's see, oh, did I sneeze? I'm sorry. Oh no, it shut up fine. It just won't show up on the, probably on the actual stream. Or for you. Let's see, getting these phone calls from random numbers. I'm just gonna call this a background parallax. And the background one is gonna have a background color, and then this one's not. And so that's gonna render into camera buffer 2. Let's see where that would even be meta here. So let's can I duplicate it? Guess not. Maybe this is just a texture. Let's see. Create render texture. So that'd be camera buffer 2. I still feel like there's some better way of doing this, but not sure. What happened to the what happened to the transparency? I thought this had transparency. Unless I disabled it. Doesn't look like it. Oh, weird. Oh, I guess it just temporarily wasn't showing it here. Alright, so problem is it's really hard to set up like a parallax layer. It feels like you need like a root for that layer. I definitely want to do that, I guess. It's really annoying, though, to think about. Alright, it's fine. might not need that. I guess I do. It feels like a really terrible way to handle this, but you know, it'll do. So then, anyway, that will be able to get moved around somewhat. I don't know how well that'll work. It's probably going to be a terrible idea. But, anyway. Just from the beginning. Let's see. Thought there was some way to set up. Oh, here we go. Culling. So then I need to have this on its own layer, which needs to be parallax, background, arc, parallax, something like that. Then this camera will just render the background parallax, and this camera will not render the background parallax. And that's probably works. Except it doesn't seem to, which is strange. Oh, because I got rid of that for one thing. Okay, so that appears to work. There's a main thing there, and then there should be a background thing. No, doesn't look like the background thing actually is working the way it's supposed to. Like camera buffer 1 is getting everything. Not sure why that is. Oh, well, it's outputting the camera buffer 1 for one thing, so that could be an issue. It should output to buffer 2. Why is that so wide? Is buffer 2 really weirdly sized? Oh, it is. Okay, so theoretically that's how that should work. See what it does, but theoretically. There should be a background, and there should be a foreground. Doesn't look like it's rendering through, which is weird. Maybe if I move that forward, then that renders, but then this one doesn't either. Even though that's transparent here, it's not actually drawing through it, which is weird. Maybe I need to set that now for that to work. It doesn't seem to care really. Let me see whether that works. So that doesn't care either. Interesting. Very strange. Does it feel like it should be working? Did I even put this on the parallax layer? I didn't. So there's that issue, but it's not the main issue. Why does it not care? Oh, okay, because the other camera's still active. I see. Alright, so that doesn't really care either. Let's see, what should I put on there? Brzezinski. Huh. It's not too dissimilar to what I was just listening to. Alright, see you, Canoocles. Thanks for joining the stream. It's good to have you. Oh yeah. Well, it's always good to catch up on sleep. It's interesting that that works. I'm surprised that that does work. Let's see if I can figure out why this is not. Like, it's rendering with transparency, but then it's not compositing properly, which is weird. Like, it's looking at this and saying that it should ignore that and not draw it, and I'm not sure why. Okay, so it's just literally just the cube. So it just needs to be after that in the queue is the issue there. Alright, well that works. So then that, theoretically, yeah, will work. If I added parallax there. See what it is for. It's kind of quiet. Transform. I think there's a thing to set position. That at least. Something I forgot my semicolon. That works. The issue of lining things up is still an issue, but it does actually draw that. I think there is a problem in that I'm moving the actual background, though. Yeah, moving the actual background, which means at a certain point the background's gonna like get so far out of sync of the camera that it would be an issue. But other than that, that more or less works. Just need to adjust those offsets again to where this one gets offset by like the major component of it, and then the other one gets offset by the minor component. It really feels like there's a better way of doing this than this way. Really struggling to see how that's going to work. I mean, it's not that it won't work, it's just... It's kind of like I need to figure out what the offset is for the cameras, and then I have to have both these cameras active for that layer. I don't really like that. It would be so much easier if I could just set the object to where the object would parallax and it just would work. Some issues here with how that gets handled. Looks like there's like a frame delay on that getting turned on. I don't know if that's a tearing issue or what. Got to be a tearing issue because the frame rate is so high. There's no way I'd be able to even see the frames. Anyway, I'm just frustrated because like. Setup works, but it doesn't work as well as it should. The thing that seems like it would be better would be to just have a different shader for the sprites that handles that. Like handles the subpixel correctness. It would be a little bit more complex, but it would be way more versatile because I could just move individual objects subpixely and it would all work. Whereas at the moment I can only move the camera subpixely, so if I'm going to do anything parallax wise, it has to happen in the camera. I think that's the compression that made it look like that, which is interesting. It's kind of cool looking actually, in a weird way. I don't know. I'm going to take a real quick break and then I'll come back and do a little more work on that or maybe something else, because these are some technical problems that it's not that they're hard to solve, it's just that they're hard to solve in a way that I can't immediately foresee how it is going to be a major problem later on. But anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. I think I will try to get this to work, because it's really the best idea that I have to make it work at the moment. And it's not going to require that much nonsense. I just need to basically add a parallax offset position. And then that needs to get communicated in a couple ways. But like I already have this camera here. It understands that there's a second pass camera. And it understands a lot of things here. It figures out all these kind of details and whatever, right? Take the screen center basically, and we get a snapped position, and then we get a sub-pixel offset. The snapped position would really just be the main, the parallax position would just be this. Yeah, screen center X. Screen center Y. So we're gonna go so painful, because it's like, I feel like there should be a better way of handling this that's more robust than just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. I can't really think of what to do. Since I can't think of what to do, I just have to do it the dumb way. And one thing would be, I was using smooth damp. I am. That'd be why the camera's not as bad as it was at one point. I think the zoom might not have been improved, but anyway, the other camera can figure out this, right, which is basically transform dot position is equal to camera info dot position times parallax offset. Then I would do this. Snap position would take that, basically. I'm just going to go vector 3 dot, or vector 3 POS, and then we'll do it that way. So it's a little bit less verbose. So that's the snap position. And we set that to that. Then we get the subpixel offset. And that's going to be this. Again, POS. And then we set our second pass camera subpixel offset. So that's our stuff for the parallax camera as well, alright. I'm just going to write another script because it's just easier. I guess this should have that oblique on it, shouldn't it? Oh, shoot. There we go. Will it work with the oblique? Looks like it will. I'm going to paste that on there. Then we're going to add parallax camera to script. And then on update, it's going to do all of that. All well and good, but we just need to have this second pass camera same way that this does, which will be game object, I guess we could have a setup in the actual camera settings volume there. That might work. I'm just gonna add a to-do here. Use camera settings volume to adjust parallax, offset, and amount. So this is gonna be like parallax, amount, and then it'd be, yeah, it'd be plus parallax. Excuse me. My allergies are starting to act up lately. So that'd be a vector 3 of parallax offset. And float of parallax amount. It would just be nice if I just could just code it to where it can just loop through as many layers as you want. You can set up all the different parallaxes. It's not a huge deal. I can figure that stuff out later, but so that's fine, except I have to set the second pass camera. That's the annoying thing, isn't it? It's not really a second pass camera. So much as it is the quad moves instead of the camera. But that's fine. So pixel offset. So that would be like render quad. that is totally not going to work. There's no way that's going to work. But it's fine. It looks like it's offsetting by default, right? So I really need to do this. That, and then that would get me my offset. Why is Unity still, like, doing these weird things? Missing built-in GUI styles. It's weird. It's almost right. Except for the jumping. Oh. Really strange because I feel like the offset so I have camera down here and a camera up there for some reason. Like it's offsetting it completely to up there. Zero should put it right on top of the other camera, right? But it doesn't. So I'm rounding position X, position Y, position Z. Right. I don't really understand that. Do this. Why is this giving me this weird amount when it should be 0? Instead it's relating to the other one. I don't really understand this. I feel like this has very little to do with anything except hello, the hype. Any tips for noob game developers? Not exactly. I just don't understand why this is doing this. It's very strange. It may be something here. Shouldn't be though. I guess all I would say as far as if you're new to game development is, well, there's two things. One, there's never really been a better time technically to get into games because it's technically easier than it's ever been. You know, obviously there's tools like Unity and Unreal and Game Maker, and many of these tools are quite good. They have their issues, obviously, but especially when you're starting out, they're fantastic things to play around with it. But the other thing I would say is, business-wise, there's probably, well, it's not the worst time to get into game development, but it's not a good time. So I wouldn't look at it as really it's not really a smart career move. It's not going to make you a lot of money. But if you're interested in getting into it as a hobby or just because you want to make games, then it's pretty easy to get into. And you know, finding tools is way easier than it used to be. I can't for the life of me figure out why this is doing this though. Like, obviously turn off this. Okay, so obviously it's working there now. Goes along with that. Close that out. And that, and that, and that, and that. Now, if I do this, what does it do? Okay, now it starts doing this weird nonsense, which I don't really understand. I guess it's because it's storing the offset relative to the this parent. So when I set this to 0, it's not actually setting it to 0. It's walking the transform tree basically to figure out what it would have to transform it to. So it might make sense to pull it out so that it doesn't have to do that. And I would just set that and see whether that works. Anyway, I don't know if it was particularly helpful advice, but well, that's very jittery. I feel like that has to do with execution order. Like it's jittering because the thing snaps at a different time. Which is kind of why I thought about doing it as a secondary thing on the main camera script. So that I don't have to mess with execution order, although I can look at execution order, certainly. Seem to change it that much, actually. Oh, I have to apply. Okay, so the execution order did matter in that regard. These weird problems sometimes. I haven't updated Unity, so I don't really know why it's doing that, but think that will work. Really strange. So we'll set that there. If it's 1, it should be in the same position, I would think. For some reason it isn't. Snapped. It's one of those nuisances. Sometimes it's like not actually compiling. Okay, so that's actually at the camera. Whereas if I set it like this, 0.9, then it works more or less the way it should. So, if I take that, that's the camera. Just pull it out there. Put it at 0.99. Snap. I doubt that will work, probably. One thing, it's got this weirdness where it's just jittering around, and I'm not really sure why. feel like it must be what the camera info is. Like, it must actually be set wrong here. I don't know why, but it feels like it has to be set wrong. Somehow I didn't detect that. It's the wrong darn thing. So when this was changing that, it was changing the other one. So that's correct now, as far as what that's doing. The issue is with the other one, the off-screen thing, is what's going on. For one thing, it's set really weirdly high for some reason. But it should be negative, a negative offset, probably. It's not quite right. Main issue there is that normally this thing would be snapped, right? And the camera moves. I'm not really accounting for the camera motion very much. Camera stayed still and this was the only thing that moved, then it might work. Which would not be impossible. I just have to that's an issue too. If I do that. Essentially, they're both moving at the same time. So one camera's moving, the other one's not. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe I just need to do this times parallax amount. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's so weird. No, I've never had it do that before. The Uni's just been doing that today for some reason. Oh, I've got this issue again. This is set wrong still. I'm wondering whether that offset needs to be adjusted by the fact that the camera motion is different. Than what it actually seems like it should be. So that seems like it is actually offsetting pretty well to the camera there, which is interesting. Yeah, the issue is just accounting for both, right? Accounting for both is hard because one snaps at a different time than the other. It shouldn't be that hard because if this this camera. Static, this camera. No, I can't. This is a really bad way about going about doing this, and I knew it would be, but I decided to try to do it anyway. And now I'm like, this is a really bad way of going about this. Why did I do it this way? Easier thing is parallaxing and just snapping to pixels, but I wanted to get that smoothness with it, and I don't really know any way to do it. Other than that. It's just really a bad way about a bad way of going about it. if I add the subpixel offset of the regular camera, then that might work. Say, for example, I do this, right? Let's try just adding the camera info dot subpixel offset. Is that what it would be on there? There is no, they don't store it on there. But I can do camera info position minus camera info snap position. So if I do that, I would wonder what it will do. So probably will go in the same direction. Oh, no, it looks like it actually offsets it. What if I do negative? Would that, like, accelerate it? If I do this, then hopefully that will work. Hey, it looks like it made it smooth. So now the issue would just be, is the amount actually doing anything? Yay, it works. It works. It's working. And then I have this to adjust. Basically the offset is what the idea would be. Okay, so that appears to work properly. There's a little bit of strangeness where I'd probably need to pre-multiply the alpha along those edges. But that's about it. Like if I zoom in, you can see along that edge there's a little bit of black happening. Shouldn't really happen, but seems to be working. So let's add that offset. And then that should theoretically work. I should be able to offset it to wherever I want it to be. So if I want it up higher, then I can move it up higher. Higher and over. now if I make this like that, again, then I've got an actual parallaxing thing. Although it's offset a bit strangely. If I wanted, I could add little clouds to it. Just gotta, just gotta add some more clouds. Add some clouds. Somebody's in the chat. Hello, Bunkin. Yes, I believe you're eureka-ing at the fact that I actually got it to work. So that's good. I think it will be a bit of a disaster, but it's not terrible. Hello, Fiery Drake. The only thing that's not working is I need to fix this, which I think is a pre-multiplied alpha issue. But yeah, I think that that's the thing. But the actual parallax thing is working at a basic level. It just took a lot of annoying doing. And I'll probably put that into into the camera settings volume stuff to where it sets that. Like, when you go to this area, it would have that. Actually, I can go ahead and do that. It wouldn't be that hard to do. Oh, there's already a camera settings volume here. I just add it to camera settings volume and say there's public top of the morning. Yeah, that's what real British people say. Why we know you're real. So we need a vector 3, should be parallax offset, and then vector 3, I don't know, float, parallax amount. So by default that's 1, and by default that's 0, yeah. More Irish. Well, you know, whatever. They're all the same to me over there. Your islands, your Brexit. Let's see. So I had some settings here. 28.68. 68.68. Just go negative 28. I'm sorry, I just find it humorous. And then we will let this guy pull in that camera settings volume. Camera settings volume So that would come in from here. Wait, no, that would come in from here. The B word. You know. It could be good. Oops. It's very loud. That's very loud. Okay. Could be good, you know. You gotta keep your optimism going, you know. Let's see. So we're gonna set that to be. Anyway, I'm glad everybody could join in, regardless of what their governments are doing or not doing anymore. Well, that's a nuisance. I feel like that needs to go into camera info just so anybody can grab it if they want to. What is... I know that it doesn't have that. Why will you not let me edit the panel? There we go. No, that's terrible, it's messy, it's horrible, it's bad programming, and I should be punished for it, but if it gets the job done, you know, can't be that terrible. So let's see whether or not that works. If I change the settings in the volume. Does it work? It's working! Yay. If I set it to 0, it's weird, because I imagine it would... I don't know. I thought I had set the offsets, but apparently not. Negative 28, negative 68.5. Okay. 28, negative 68.5. So that should work. She did it. I've been streaming a couple hours. Okay, so it seems to work. I feel like I should do something when you adjust this, though, you know? Like I should automatically modify the offset to try to keep stuff in the same spot. Hey, parallaxing. It works. Yeah, I feel like I need to, like, if you adjust the parallax amount somehow, the offset should get adjusted. I don't know, there's probably some way I can set that up to make that not an utter nightmare, but it already kind of is an utter nightmare just because I have a second camera and I have to layer these, and so if I wanted to have like 3 different parallax layers, I have no way to do that. And I don't even really know how I would go about doing that other than really modifying my script a lot. But that works for a very basic level of doing that, so that's good. It probably doesn't even need to be that much of a thing there, but I want to think about one other thing though, which is this shader again. Like what to do with that, because it should more or less work in most contexts, but yeah, I need to figure out that issue there. I guess I just need to do like think of how that works. working exactly. Just changed whether I got a white fringe or a black fringe. Ugh. Shoot. It actually looks really neat, even though that's totally an accidental bug. It actually looks really cool. Yeah, it looks foggy. That's why it looks neat. I'll screenshot that at least. Even though I think it just basically inverted. But it looks cool. Anyway, I see. All I'm trying to do is get the alpha to work. Where the heck is that? It's in the camera. In one of the cameras, I should say. But if I take this, make that black, maybe. That looks much closer to what I'm looking for. Yeah, that looks right. I just have to make sure it's like rendered onto black, I guess. Okay. Okay, so that looks good as far as that layer goes. I don't see any fringing at the edges anymore. Because like if this was a different color, then you get fringing, it seems like. Okay. So cool, that's working more or less with the parallax layer. That's probably not obvious on the stream because it's the color is almost completely flat, but if I go, I gotta turn off this here. If I go and changed this to different sprite, let's say. Oh my gosh, I got too many sprites. Well, like that. And it's got parallaxing on that thing. Isn't that neat? And it's all subpixely correct. It's very smooth. If you look at the pixels, they're all blended. Of course, I can zoom in, and then we got pixel blending there. All very, very smooth. Zoom into those pixels. So I don't know how like sustainable that's going to be through the course of the whole game, because it's a really hard-coded way of doing a parallax layer, and I only have support for one right now. It's like I've got the foreground, then I've got a parallax background, and then I've got... that's it, basically. Let's go back to the camera. Make sure that the color's black. Yeah, it is surprisingly strange how that works. But yeah. Yes and no. Like I could do that, and that would be nice, but I'm not entirely sure how to get my smooth subpixel stuff to work and also have that, because the way I'll have to explain to you the way that it works, I guess, at the moment. But essentially the way that it works is there's a pre-pass camera, and that renders into a texture, and that texture is this camera buffer texture, and then that camera buffer texture gets applied to a quad right here. Let me just turn off everything except that. So it gets applied to a quad here. So you can see, I look at it in 3D. You can see there's a quad here. Sorry about the flickering C-fighting, but so that gets rendered onto a quad there, and then there's another camera here that I'm having just see this quad, and the surface here has like a shader applied to it, right? And that shader handles the subpixelness. So to do a parallax layer, the only way I could think of with that method to do it was to just put another quad here, because I can move that quad around, and it will handle all of the subpixely correct stuff. Or I can move this camera around and it will handle it. But it's not ideal, because ideally you'd just be able to just have the things in the world and it works, and like you said, have a 3D camera and I can just put the sprites there wherever and it'll just work. But I'm not really sure how to do that. The problem would be like, I'll have to split this up. Let me turn this music down so I can think. So if you look over here and you see what's actually like going on in the world, is the background, it snaps to tiles, right? That makes sure that it's always pixely aligned when it renders to that texture. And then there's this camera that handles the subpixel motion, which is really subtile motion, but still, either way, it just snaps to each tile, and then this camera handles that subtile motion. So to have like a parallaxing background, I have to have like the background be another layer that gets blitted to separately than the other ones, or gets rendered to, right? So it's a separate quad here. if I can show what's going on, it's kind of hard to, like, because I've got scripts running and they screw stuff up. But anyway, so there's two quads here basically. Like, I've got one that's the level, and then another one that's handling the background, right? So they're different layers there. The issue is that, and this is not to say that there's no way of doing it, but I don't know what the way is to do it. Is right now I have to have a separate camera for each one of these layers. So I have like a camera that renders this layer, and it puts it onto this texture, and then I have a camera that renders this layer, and it puts it onto this texture. It's not a crazy thing to solve. Like I said, I just haven't figured it out, and I spent about 30 minutes on stream earlier trying to figure it out, and I just decided I would just do it the dumb way because I knew it would work, which is to just add another camera. So ideally I would like to have a more generalized system for that, where I can just have like an object or something, and I can just add a little parallax component to it or something that says, oh, this thing, you know, parallax it or whatever, and then it handles the rest of it. And I can set like the amount that I want that object adjusted depth-wise to the other things. Anyway. Or be able to do it in 3D, right, like this, to where it just, you get the parallax for free. I don't know, either way. There's a few different ways of doing it, and part of the problem, or I would say the main problem really, is just how I built things to begin with, because I wanted to have this subpixely correct effect. Like if I went in here and I turned that off, I don't know how visible that will be on stream, but it has the normal like shimmering issue that every other video game has when the camera moves around. I can zoom in so you can see where all the pixels kind of crawl as the camera moves, right? So I didn't want to have that, and I didn't want to do the other issue that, or the other way that you can solve this essentially, which would be that disables. The other way would be to snap to pixels, right? Which a lot of games do that too, where the camera can't move more than one pixel at a time, so as the camera moves very slowly, it pop, 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 you know, it pops from pixel to pixel. I didn't want to do that either, so I believe there's a third way of doing it, which is the way that what is that game that came out last year? I can't remember. It had Disaster Piece music anyway. It was a Zelda type game that came out last year. I can't remember the name of it. And the way that game did it was, it could scroll, but it snapped to screen pixels, right? Which is another thing that works, because... No, not Titan Souls. It had Disaster Piece did the music, and I can't remember the name of the game. It was very bright and neon-y, and it was sort of Fez-like in the aesthetic of the game. Anyway. But that snapped to screen pixels as far as the scrolling went. So it was always pixel correct, but you couldn't get sub-screen pixel movement. So I thought, well, I can do like one better, and so I wrote a shader that handles the like sub-screen pixel movement, which is where you get that, right? So this just blurs, you know, if there's a pixel that's like, well, this pixel's kind of like, if you think of the blocks of the pixel, it's like, well, there's an edge of that pixel block, and it's part way through there. It just does the blending at that level. That's why, like, when you zoom in here, you'll only see the blending right at the edge of the pixel. versus if you just did like a bilinear blend where it would blend across the whole pixel. It works pretty well, I think, until you get to where it's more than 1-to-1 pixel. Like, it can't handle anything more zoomed out than this. But most of the time, I don't think I would ever want to zoom out more than that anyway, so I probably will never actually have 1-to-1 pixels on the screen, but it does handle that, so. Anyway, so that all works. It's not a problem. That's just to explain why I even have this issue of in the first place, right? Like, what, otherwise it can seem really weird to do this strange render pipeline. But there's probably a better way to do the render pipeline than I'm doing right now. I just don't really know what it is because I'm not that skilled and familiar with Unity and how you might set up custom render stuff, and I was looking at that earlier. Like, I was looking at, not here, but I was looking in the manual trying to figure out, like, what could you do, you know. And there's some new stuff where you can just program the rendering pipeline, but that seemed like way more overkill than I needed. I don't really need to do that. I just need to kind of have something that's like, okay, render this now and send this to the next stage of the render. Like, so render this camera, store it in this texture, now render this camera. So it would be the same thing as what I'm doing. It would just be all in code, and it would just get generated in the code rather than having to build it in the scene, which seemed really a bad way to do it. Anyway, that was a ridiculously long way to explain that, but no, I can't put it at a different distance. Let me show you. It won't work. The problem is that the quad has a fixed size. Besides the fact that the shader won't work, which I can also show you, but let's see. So if I put the quad farther back, let's say like this, right? And then I go and we'll run the game. And where is the camera? That's the second camera. Okay. If I change this to be perspective, right? You're right in the sense that the problem is I also have the other stuff running. And it's just flattened that out. Let me think. I gotta go through and figure out what's adjusting what, right? So if I turn off that, then this is gonna be all weird to begin with. And that's fine, but I'm just disabling things to show you what I mean, basically. So if I move that back, it's true I will get it for free to a certain extent, but it's not exactly clear with this image. Is part of the problem. Let me add the noise back into it. So, there we go. Ah! Wrong thing. So if I have that and I just move it like that, you'll notice that the background is still not doing a proper subpixel blend, right? That's because the subpixel blending is actually not going to take into account the fact that it's being projected. Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm just... In Unity, I can run the thing, and then as soon as I stop running it, it will undo all of those changes that I did. So I can just test that. The only thing is that, but that's getting set anyway, so... but it's not subpixely correct with perspective. It's not just a thing that works with perspective. If I made it work with perspective, then it would work, but I'm not really sure how to make it do that, because I have to compute... For any given pixel, I have to be able to compute where the edge is relative to the screen pixels. Which, if it's axis aligned, is really easy, and if it's not, then it would be harder, and so it would essentially be an anti-aliasing problem if it's not axis aligned, and I don't know that much about graphics programming to really get that to work. So, anyway, I can figure all that out at some point, but I don't know exactly where to begin with it. Let's see, I've been live for about 2.5 hours. I need to think about what I want to work on next, so I'm not entirely certain. There's obviously a lot of things I could work on in the game, but I'm not really sure what needs it. I was, sitting down today mostly to work on that parallax thing, and to get that working at a basic level. I don't have any collision on that area, and I could just for the sake of continuing this art test, I could polish this up to where you can actually walk around. No problem. I didn't have to explain it necessarily. I just felt like I should explain so that there's some, well, it helps my thought process, and maybe I can come up with a solution by doing it, and even if I can't, then it's helpful. So anyway, see Vigard now. Try to get some sleep. Let's see, I have a whole area there. I had some puzzles here that I don't know that I liked. I could see if they're terrible. They probably are. Thought about doing concept art, but I hate, for whatever reason, doing art. It's like so draining. But it needs to be done. And I need to come up with what the start is closer to looking like rather than this. Which I did a colorized version of that, but I didn't really like it. So anyway, I'm going to take a break real quick, and then I will come back and either do something else, or I will decide that I'm done for today. But anyway, I'll be back in a little bit. Alright. Yeah, I think I'll do a little bit more art here. So, I don't dislike some parts of it. Mostly I like this part down here. But I think that the color is bad. I think I already did yeah, so I did this colored version of the start. It's like a total different approach. So I like some parts of this. I would say I like these, certainly, color-wise, these pillars, better than these ones. I kind of like it like that a little bit more than maybe being totally blue. The totally blue is like nice too. It almost would make sense though for this to be a little more yellow than it is. Should probably tweet that I'm streaming for a bit. Okay, so I think that's probably fair as far as of those things. Now I gotta figure out what I'm doing as far as that goes. also just feels like there's not enough colors there. I'm gonna try another layer here and put in some grass, which I have this other concept where I have some grass as far as a color for grass. So to begin with, I'm going to pull that color. I think that album's over. Oh. Yeah, we'll try that. There's probably some way with this plug-in in OBS to cut out the parentheses part there. Let's see, I'm going to try blobbing that in. To begin with. I don't dislike even the shape of the island or anything. It's mostly alright. I might go ahead and begin with by pulling up the bottom layer. So I don't think that's that terrible in and of itself. I thought I had an ace version of that. Okay, I do. Or if that'll let me use that. Okay, I guess I will. much texture. I'm not really sure how to handle that bottom edge. what that looks like. Color. that looks pretty good. I'm actually fairly happy with that. It's a little bit over polished, but need to adjust that parallax background. Big enough. Nothing modular going on with this artwork at all, so that's another problem. It looks cool. That's the important thing. What if I took, like, one of these guys, colored it like that, and, like, shrunk it down? Put it on the parallax layer. We gotta make the GIFs. The GIFs. Make the GIFs. I'm pretty happy with that overall. Just for a basic start test. That might have been good to make the GIF bigger. Pretty happy with that overall. Gotta do some better animation, but that's not a terrible looking thing. Just have to make some other little islands to go in there. Alright, so how long have I been on stream today? 3.5 hours. Yeah, I think I'm going to call the stream here. We'll send that out into the world as just a example of something. I don't know if anybody's even watching at the moment. If nobody is, then I won't bother with the typical ending stuff that I do, but there's been people watching. Okay, so if you're interested in the game, there is a blog. It's taiji-game.com. I'll post that link in the chat. And from there, you can subscribe to a mailing list, which will let you know when the game's done. I post updates there about what I'm working on, or some of my thoughts on game design and things like that. I try to post once a week. I don't always do that. You can support development of the game on Patreon. There's a link from the blog there, and you can find links there to some of my other stuff that I do, some of my older games. Obviously follow the channel if you're not already, and thanks for joining, and I'll see you all next time. I thought I was going to be streaming next week, but I'll be going back to work next week, so I can't do that. And then the next week after that, I'll be in New York. So, anyway, so thank you all for joining. I will see you all around.